Well, after over a week straight of daily uploads all revolving around different rankings of players and coaches in a bunch of different categories, we've now reached the finale of this series for now, and this is the big one. I've gone through every position on the basketball court, I've gone through the coaches, I've gone through the bench players, I've gone through sharpshooters, but for today's video, we'll simply be looking at the best of the best the league has to offer by ranking the 10 best players in the NBA right now. This was the most difficult ranking to make because, to put it simply, the talent pool evolved this year and so many players took big leaps, which makes it interesting when comparing it to the established veteran superstars. Before we get started though, it turns out about 79% of you watching aren't even subscribed to the channel, so please, if you enjoy the content, consider hitting the subscribe button, because not only does it help out a ton, but I would also very much appreciate it. Now with that being said, let's begin. Before we get into the top 10, I wanted to discuss some honorable mentions that just missed the cut, and the players in this category are Nikola Jokic, Joel Embiid, Jason Tatum, Ben Simmons, and Chris Paul. Jokic and Embiid, both being the top players at the center position, were very difficult snubs because both are incredibly talented and productive and have the ability to play as well or better than some of the guys included in the top 10, but there were only 10 spots available, so they came up at 11 and 12 for me. Tatum and Simmons are two fastly rising young studs, but for different reasons, and down the line, they too should be cracking the top 10. Tatum's here for his elite shot making and offensive talent, and Simmons is for his top tier playmaking, all-around ability to impact the basketball games, and premier defensive versatility that earned him a spot on first team all defense this season. Then with Chris Paul, he proved everybody wrong this season after being written off almost a year ago, and with the Thunder, he bounced back and had an incredibly impressive season, leading them to the playoffs. Now to start off the top 10, working from the bottom up to the number 1 spot, we have Jimmy Butler of the Miami Heat. Jimmy entered the season as well with heavy scrutiny on his name, with a ton of people around the league questioning his move to Miami, but this year he showed everyone that he knew exactly what he was doing, and not only did the Heat emerge as a legit threat in the East, but he led them all the way to the NBA Finals. They took down the top-seeded Bucks led by the MVP, they took down a very talented Celtics team, and in the finals, they put up a very good fight against the Lakers despite being undermanned, and Jimmy was at the core of all of this success. He may not put up the biggest numbers in the box score, but he's highly impactful in a ton of other ways, and they definitely would not be where they are now without him. Next up at number 9, we have Luka Doncic of the Dallas Mavericks. In just 2 seasons, Doncic has established himself as one of the truly elite talents in the game, and at just age 21, he has so much more room to improve. For him to be able to put up averages of 29 points, 9 rebounds, and 9 assists per game at this age, all while leading the most historically efficient offense in NBA history, is unbelievable, and from here, he's only going to continue to rise in the rankings. He plays well beyond his years, he can take any game over and isn't afraid of taking any shot in any circumstance, and he simply has the it factor that you want to see from a rising superstar. Up next at number 8, we have Damian Lillard of the Portland Trail Blazers. The Blazers were brutalized by injuries this season, and outside of Dame and CJ McCollum, the help from the rest of the squad was inconsistent to say the least. Key players like Yusuf Nurkic and Zach Collins missed a large majority of the season. Their wing players were inconsistent and inexperienced, and a lot was on the shoulders of Dame in particular to keep them afloat, and he did exactly that. Despite him having to do more than he ever previously had to, he went out and had the best individual season of his career, posting averages of 30 points and 8 assists per game, while shooting the ball 46% from the field and 40% from 3 on high volume, all of which being flat out remarkable. In the bubble, he caught fire at the perfect time and clinched a playoff berth for the team, and he showed how big time he was throughout. Next up at number 7, we have Kevin Durant of the Brooklyn Nets. I was honestly considering not including Durant at all on this list because of the fact that he missed the entire season because of an injury, and we really don't know how he's going to look when he comes back from it, but he is undoubtedly one of the best players in the league, so I decided to include him anyway. Obviously, at his peak, he's one of the very best players in the league and deserving of a way higher ranking than 7, but the Achilles injury he suffered is not something to take lightly, and he very well might not look like himself immediately. He's still firmly in the top 10, but I need to see what he looks like for the Nets before I move him back up. Next up at number 6, we have Steph Curry of the Golden State Warriors. Curry, like Durant, was injured almost all season long, managing to play in only 5 games on the season and not exactly playing very well in those games. This is a very similar situation to Durant for me, which is why he's ranked where he is, because obviously at full strength, at his peak he's a top 5 player, but based on what we saw from him most recently, I can't justify putting him there now. Next season the Warriors should be back to full strength and competing, and as a result, Curry should move back up the list. Up next at number 5, we have Anthony Davis of the Los Angeles Lakers. In his first season with the Lakers, things could not possibly have gone better for him. He dominated alongside LeBron James, he was a Defensive Player of the Year finalist, his offensive prowess was on full display, and they capped the season off with a ring that he obviously played a huge role in. After 7 seasons in New Orleans, where he struggled to find any postseason success, his move to LA must have felt like a breath of fresh air, and his legacy is just now beginning. Up next at number 4, we have James Harden of the Houston Rockets. Over the last few seasons, Harden has become a scoring machine at a level we really haven't seen in a very long time, and this year, he took home his 3rd straight scoring title by averaging 34 points per game. To add to that, he also dishes out about 7.5 assists and grabs almost 7 rebounds per game, and while he easily leads the league in isolation possessions, he also ranks in the 91st percentile in terms of his points produced in those situations, making him one of the most efficient isolation scorers as well. He's a one-man elite offense who lights up the scoreboard on a nightly basis, and while many don't like to admit this, his defense is also very much improved. The notion that he's a playoff choker is pretty much a myth, as he averaged 30 points and 8 rebounds per game this postseason, while shooting the ball from 48% from the field, and the Rockets, they just simply got outmatched by the champion Lakers. Up next at number 3, we have Kawhi Leonard of the Los Angeles Clippers. The Clippers season ended on as bad of a note as one could have possibly imagined, getting upset in the second round by the Denver Nuggets despite leading the series 3-1. But I'm not going to overreact too hard to that. Kawhi was in the conversation for being the best player in the league after his phenomenal postseason run last season, and this year we learned that he really isn't that. But what he is still an elite two-way player that can take over a game, hit the big shots, lock up on defense, and impact the game at a very high level. Next up at number 2, we have Giannis Antetokounmpo of the Milwaukee Bucks. Giannis won this year's MVP award for a 2nd consecutive season while also taking home the Defensive Player of the Year award, putting him in a rare category matched only by Michael Jordan and Hakeem Olajuwon. Obviously, that kind of accomplishment would usually result in a number 1 ranking, but we can't ignore his shortcomings in the playoffs when the Bucks almost got swept by the Miami Heat and Giannis clearly didn't perform up to the standard of an MVP and Defensive Player of the Year winner. He's only got 1 year left on his contract in Miami, so he's going to go all out to win next season, but if they don't, then we might see him on his way out of Milwaukee. And finally, the number 1 spot on this list goes to the man who's been here for about a decade now, being LeBron James of the Los Angeles Lakers. The King is back on top of the basketball world, bringing the Larry O'Brien Trophy back to LA, and it only further cemented his legacy as one of the best, if not the best of all time. At 35 years old, he's still as productive as ever, and even though his athletic prowess isn't quite what it used to be, he's still incredibly smart and makes the right play. His transition to point guard this season led to him leading the league in assists, as many suspected he would be able to do if he ever made such a switch, and his all-around game is truly top-notch. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below how you would rank the players at the top of the NBA. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.